just because something says organic on it, you're still spraying it with something. That something has just come from maybe a natural origin, rather than a lab.
Yes, rather than a synthetic source of it.
And some of the organic stuff might be really safe.
Yep.
And some of the organic stuff that still classifies as organic may actually be have the same level of toxicity, or greater or less or close to, I don't know specifically. But I'm just getting to the point that specifically using organic product on food or buying organic doesn't mean it hasn't been sprayed, and doesn't mean that it's as it came in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, it's been sprayed, and it's been sprayed with an organic certified input. And those, you can see usually the main one for Australia, the Australian Certified Organic Organisation, which you can get classification on certain chemicals. Like we've got our copper fungicide. We're going through the process of that, of getting it certified organic. Copper is natural and can be used in organic production, up to a certain amount. That's the thing you get. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but you can use copper and sulfur, which are both natural.
So, what are your honest thoughts on? Because you sell both.
Yep.
Organic. What would you call it? Inorganic or?
No, organic and synthetic, or organic,
synthetic,
or conventional.
Conventional. So you're selling both. So you're kind of, I don't know if, because people, they're just going to say, you sell chemicals, you're biased, right? But you also sell to both sides, because it's essentially what you're saying before about the loss in crops, is that it's not financially viable, or maybe even possible to run a farm at scale without some sort of chemical input.
Yep, there's, like, there is organic farms and everything like that, and some of them it's like going that, if, like, for instance, I'll talk about the apple industry. It's like going, there are organic apples you can buy out there, and a lot of organic farmers can work, because the thing is going, there's no one near them. It's only them in the farm. So one of the things, it's like when you get like a heap of different farms near each other, the pest pressure, insect pressure, disease pressure just skyrockets. And you trying to do organic farming makes it difficult there. Give an example. We were in a product, a mating disruption product.
For mating disruption?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Is that like being a Star Trek fan?
No, this is pretty much where you
Socks
and your...
and Crocs, mating disruption products.
Well, it's like this. It's like going, the males and females never meet. So it's actually probably not too bad. Some of the females are thinking, if you don't want your husband's near you.
The mention.
It's a pheromone, so it actually stops the males and females from mating with each other. So,
right, okay.
So then they don't have the offspring, and they don't cause the grubs in the apples and everything like that. We did try one area to try to get a full mating disruption for everyone, get it subsidised by the government, but unfortunately it didn't end up working. But the thing was, if one person did it and then your neighbours didn't do it or didn't do anything to, if they just let their orchard go, you can't do organic farming. But growers where I've seen just by themselves and got no one within about 10k of each other, 10k, it's like going, you can pretty much do a lot more organic side.
Okay. But is that because basically if you have a massive area that is just for apples, you get one bug in and it spreads, and your neighbour may not be treating it as seriously as you are, and it comes back the next year. So you've got kind of your own little island, and you've got more control, and what comes in. Okay, makes sense.
And that's all the biosecurity side of things. But one thing I want to go back to is just going with those organic inputs and those type of things. Going, you say whether it's one or the other. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. The amount both are used. So a lot of organic products or certified organic products are using conventional orchards, using conventional orchards and the likes like that, because it's like they can be used and they do have a space, and there's a lot more being developed. So that's an interesting side of things. So what you see in your Bunnings shelf at that is nothing what is available or what is going to be available in the next probably 10 to 20 years going forward.
So people are using organic and synthetic together. They both work, but maybe they're not using, because they're using some synthetic, they can't classify it as organic.
They can't,
So here's the question for you. If you're going to an apple shop or you're going to your Coles, are you buying organic or are you just buying what's there?
I'm buying what's there. Number one, the easiest thing is go direct to the farmer, go direct to the orchard or a farmer's market. The quality actually will be better, because one of the things is like going, you see in the supermarkets, they've got to transport it from the orchard to the distribution center out to all the different branches. When it comes straight from the farmer, it's very different. And I'll tell you what, the seconds that I have, and when I say seconds, they might have a blemish on it. Tastes just tastes a lot better than what you can find.
No, yes.
Because it's fresh.
It comes back to the song.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't. So my father-in-law, I just came from Esperance, right? So he's got a little orchard, and there's apples right now, and there's blemishes on the apples, right? You bite the apple, you don't even know.
No.
And it is really, it's a strange thing that we set ourselves up for, to have an expectation of like, oh, we're going to have, perfect food.
Yeah.
That's like an artwork.
Yeah.
And at what expense are we doing that? And a literal expense, But then also, the chemicals, the applications, the food waste, and
and you got to look at it from the chemical point of view. It is very, very highly regulated. So everything that goes on, it's not just going, we do a trial to make sure it works and then it's registered. No, there is multiple years of multiple studies locally and abroad in terms of measuring the residues, and you have to do the residue levels of what is actually sprayed on there. And there is a maximum residue that can be allowed on that fruit, and sometimes that is zero. And the way it is in some industries where we're geared towards export, cherries is a good one, there's a lot of zero, of nothing you can have. So when they go test the fruit before it's exported, they can't find any traces of any chemicals out there, and then they can export.
How do they find the traces?
They pretty much, lab testing. So they take
wipers?
No, they take the fruit and and test it.
Yeah, I told you before this, and viewers will remember, we had Vasily on, and Vasily told a story of how he was doing a video at someone's property, and they were talking about how organic the apples were and blah, blah, and he was about to bite into an apple, and, oh, I don't eat that.
Yep.
You just pull it off the tree. Oh, we just sprayed it with this. And it paints this picture of deception that's going on, at least. I mean, what people will do, rightly or wrongly, is they will go, they'll hear a bad story of a bad actor. Happens in every industry, and they go, everyone's like that. Everybody who is involved in that industry does something like that. Everybody who's misleading. So there's some farmer who does this. It's the same with the auto industry or whatever. Right? How do you experience those kinds of, it's an honest question asking it, but like people coming to you are just completely applying things wrong, completely ignoring the label. What the heck are you even doing with that product? That was stopped 10 years ago.
That's more worrisome than what farmers are doing. Because one thing with that organic one going, there is still withholding periods on products, even on organic products. So if you're putting something on, we talk about what withholding periods in turf. It's actually not in lawns and turf. It's re-entry period. So usually say when something's dry. In orchards, it's withholding period of something spray. So something might be organic and you spray, you've got a 1 day withholding period. So that means 1 day before you can pick it and eat it. So it could have been that it's like that has a withholding period for that amount of time, but it's just not dangerous, but that's what the regulations are. So do not spray it and eat it. Other things that's like going, I know sometimes the fruit is dipped before it's packaged up and everything like that.
So what do they dip it in usually?
Dip it in, usually there's all different types of chemicals depending on what it is. It's usually some fungicide. For apples, they do it for storage, for cold storage and that. They dip it, we've got fogging technology. We fog some fungicide in to stop the rots, usually a blue mold, green mold type thing. Otherwise, that'll just wipe out the crop completely, and the likes. But also, like strawberries get sprayed for botrytis before usually harvest, because you see strawberries do not last, and it's all about the storage and everything like that. Yeah, that's why I buy direct from the farmer. It's a lot better. But
so is this something? So because a lot of people are going to listen to this, and I mean they already know a lot of this stuff, right? But they're listening to this going, I just don't like the sound of that. But is that happening if you're buying straight from the farmer?
That it's like they'll have product, and it's probably it's possibly been sprayed a couple of days before. Don't know. It all depends on everyone's different. Depends on the pressure as well. If where they're growing, they don't have a huge amount of pressure, they're not going to spray. That's the thing. It's like good example is some stone fruit growers that I know. They go, no, it's been a dry year. We're not going to spray our fruit before we sell it. There's no point. That's true. There's no pressure. There's no pressure for it. The disease pressure's not there, so they're not necessarily just going for the sake of it. But sometimes it's like when the disease pressure, how it has been quite wet, they're going to need to put in a few more inputs.
Yeah. So what about, we talk about with weeds, because now we're getting to food and fungicides and things like that. With weeds, I can see a future, say in a canola field, where yeah, there is a robot that is doing some kind of manual technique, which is completely removing the ability for resistance to build up. You know, so like I've seen the ones. I think they've got like kind of like a small whippersnipper blade on the end of them, and they just cut them off.
Yep.
And you do that enough times when they're young, and that's them done. And
if they die, great. Because the thing is, rather than take nutrients out of the soil for the crop.
Yeah, exactly. So I can see a future, I don't know if that's 10, 20, 50 years, where you go, okay, you can ease out of some sort of chemical in that application. But what about fungicides?
Fungicides, what it will happen there is that we are developing more safer biological controls. There are biological controls already out there. And the key is they have to be just as good as a synthetic product. Right. And there is a couple out there at the moment. There's one called in Apple's Serenade Prime, which is the Bacillus. And Bacillus has been used for ages, for eons, but there are different strains. Like when it comes to Bacillus, there are different strains that do different things and are good on some things, not good on others. So that's one thing. But there are different types of products getting developed that are biological that will control these diseases. So that's what we're going to see more of. We are going to see, other chemicals, or the chemicals that are going to come out are going to be so much lower rate than where it used to be. Say, they'd go in a 3, 4, 5 litres a hectare in an orchard, becomes 100 mil a hectare.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, a lot less. And we're seeing that in some of the turf products, like some of the old ones, you're spraying like 20, 30 litres a hectare, now you do half a litre a hectare and get the result.
Yep. So, I mean, is that just because it's super concentrated? So
no, it's just the actual chemical is a lot safe. Its toxicology, environmental profile is a lot better, but it's also a lot more effective at those ultra low rates. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, and that's the science side. We're well above my pay grade, where the science is getting involved, and the scientists are developing the chemistry that way to go. This is what we need. It's like sort of with the different strains of with cooches. You see it. It's like you got Tiff Tuff, Tahoma, Iron Cutter, and all of those. They're well advanced of what we used to have.
Yeah, 100%.
And what they can do, and same thing is happening with the with the chemical side as well. Going, how can we make this better? How can we do this better? There's a product that's I guess we were talking before offline about copper and the likes like that. There's restrictions on copper in Europe. So what some of the manufacturers and universities have done, been able to develop a copper product that you don't actually need as much copper to get the same result. So we've got a liquid copper that does that. It uses, it uses about 1/10 of the amount of copper to get the same result.
I've always said that some people are really good as independents. That's what suits them. Some people, and probably most, are better as employees. There are a fraction of people where franchises are really successful. Doesn't matter the industry, sometimes that's the best route for your personality type and the giftings you have. We've had a bunch of people over the years say that gyms has been great for them, and so that's why we're really proud to have them on board. Believe it or not, the fees per month, they're usually about $700 to $800 a month, which realistically is what a lot of people, independents, are spending on their marketing, their advertising, their administration anyway. If you want to find out more, the best thing I'd suggest is jump on the podcast. Joel does a great job chatting with people what their real experiences are like, and if you think that really suits you, perhaps they are the choice for you. Jump on the gym's website after, get an inquiry, and find out more.